you everyone for joining us today on this very, very exciting topic that we've been talking about today. So ingredient and product testing for label verification. And we have gotten off to a wonderful start. Rob talked to us about the different types of products, the nutrition facts panels that are needed on food products, and the supplement facts panels that are required on dietary supplements, some of the similarities, some of the differences, and how that line is often blurred. And then Doug told us about what the consumers are looking for in these products and how important it is to look at the different aspects of these products. So at the end of the day, now we're going to talk about how do we test to verify these products are labeled correctly and have in them what we're purporting that they do. So I'm going to talk about the critical aspect of the laboratory testing. And I just want to tell everyone that all of my comments today apply to any testing laboratory, regardless of whether it is your in-house testing laboratory, a third-party independent lab, or even a government lab. All of these aspects apply. All of these considerations should be taken into account. So we know about the required testing for dietary supplements, and we've talked about that a little bit in the previous presentations. The ID testing for all ingredients that go into a dietary supplement, then verifying the dietary supplement facts panel or the nutrition facts panel in the case of food, and the need to identify and understand the stability of these actives in a finished product, because many of us like to have a 2-year shelf life on our product. With these class 1 nutrients that Rob told us about, we have to make sure that these are at 100% at the end of compliance. So for the rest of my time, I'm going to talk about verification of the active nutrients and how to properly test them, how to understand what these testing processes are. So a lot of people have great information from their vendors, from the supplement ingredient vendors, from food supplier ingredients, and this information is very helpful. What I always recommend to people, they ask me, can I trust the supplier? Can I trust the data I've gotten from this supplier? And my answer is always trust but verify. You need to verify that this information is correct, because ultimately it's your name that's on the product that's going out on the shelf, and you're going to be responsible for it. So let's talk about this world of testing. The regulations tell us that all this testing must be done with scientifically valid methods. And that was a term I wasn't particularly fond of when it first came out in the dietary supplement GMPs, but I've learned to live with it, and I try to help people understand what that means in the testing environment and what that means when different methods are being used. So there's 2 major categories of testing methods. The first is compendial methods, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And then there's the laboratory verified methods, which have a great deal more risk and worthy of our time this afternoon or this morning talking through each of these. So compendial methods. These are, by definition, with FDA, fully validated methods. These are methods you'll find published from AOAC International. You'll find them published in the USP and also the other pharmacopoeia from other countries, Europe, Japan, China, British pharmacopoeia. Fully validated for the matrix of their intended use. So we have to keep in mind these methods must be fit for purpose for the product that you're testing. So if the method was published on a particular vitamin supplement mixture and your mixture contains other ingredients, it's no longer fit for purpose. You need to match all of the ingredients that you have in your product to the method that you're being used. And I find it's rare that we find a compendial method that will fit all of the ingredients that we have in these wonderful products that we're making, with some exceptions. You can do extensions of these methods. So if it's a product that's designed for vitamin and mineral formulations and you have added nutrients that you can identify and measure, then you can look at extending the method through some validation or some work done in your laboratory to extend the matrix. You can also add analytes to methods that don't contain all the things you want to measure. So looking at Laboratory verified methods. If you've taken a compendial method and you are modifying it in any way or making it fit for purpose, you now have a laboratory verified method, and you as a testing laboratory are now responsible for the performance of this method. Something to keep in mind when you're interacting with laboratories and discussing with them, the method we know must be scientifically valid. The laboratory must demonstrate this. So you need to ask them, is this method scientifically valid? If the answer is yes, ask for a demonstration of this. You need to see a validation report. You need to see a verification report that demonstrates the precision, the accuracy, and the ruggedness of this method in the formulation that you're looking at across the range and concentration of the nutrients you're looking at. That's a lot to ask, and it's very rare that you'll find this to be inclusive, but you need to see as much information as you can to understand the performance of that particular method. At the same time, these methods need to be stability indicating. So if there's any degradation of these ingredients, these nutrients we're looking at, the method needs to detect that there is degradation and looking at what the degradation products are. So we need to understand if these products are going to be stable throughout our shelf life, and if they're not stable, what are the breakdown products that we're looking at. This is sort of a spin-off from the pharmaceutical environment where it's much more critical because some degradants can be toxic. We're not as much worried about that as just worried about making sure our nutrients are at a 100% of label declaration for the class 1 nutrient at the end of shelf life. So these methods, as I've mentioned, must be fit for purpose, and we must understand that. We must cover very complex matrices. So these wonderful sports nutrition products have a lot of material in them, a lot of different ingredients, and we have to have performance that's demonstrated and documented for analysis of these products. So what are some of the challenges? The challenges will mirror back very much what I just described in the laboratory test methods. Sports supplements frequently have added amino acids and added intact proteins. These will be a major challenge for a lot of our standard test methods. Proteins are very large molecules that, if not handled properly, are going to become major interferences with chromatographic procedures. Amino acids behave very differently in some of our chromatographic procedures. You need to know what the ingredients are, and you need to have test methods that are capable of operating in the presence of these proteins. The large number of ingredients just in themselves can be challenging. We need to understand what these ingredients are, and in many cases, to measure the nutrients of interest, we need to separate out some of the ingredients and know where they are in the test method, know where they are in the chromatography. So all of these methods and all of the performance that I've been discussing, we need to understand what the variability of these test methods are. There will be variability in the testing method. So as we look at our manufacturing, we look at our products, we have raw material variability, we have manufacturing variability, and we also have test method variability. That's frequently overlooked when people are looking at setting and determining what specifications are for products. In many cases, it can make a significant difference. So this variability needs to be taken into consideration when we're formulating our specifications and when we're evaluating products against specifications. These sports products that I've been talking about often have interfering ingredients, and the method performance can be impacted with these complex ingredients. And not only will you introduce more variability, but unfortunately, this can result in errors, both enhancements and some cases suppression. So your results can be lower or higher than the true value because of these complex ingredients, not understanding where they are and not handling them properly in the test method procedure. So very important, we need to keep that in our minds when we're verifying these methods. So what do I recommend for quality testing? Of course, all of the above that we've been discussing here today. Use the best test method available. So many times we want to have a test method that's very rapid and inexpensive, but we really can't afford to do that when we are going to be sacrificing performance of the test method. So it's very much a balance and a best practice. We want to have the best test method possible, but it needs to be practical in the environment that we're working with as well. Using compendial methods gives us a tremendous advantage in the beginning because you have a fully validated method on a particular formulation. You understand what the performance of that method is through the verification of the compendia, and we can look at that when evaluating the performance in our test method data. We want to choose other methods very carefully. If we're not beginning with a compendial method, look for a published method, look for some method that has some substantiation. If your laboratory has developed its own method, then the entire 100% burden of proof of that method performance falls on you, and you need to be able to answer those questions. We need to make sure, as I mentioned, that test methods are scientifically valid and fit for purpose. With these complex formulas that we're evaluating, it's very, very important. So ask the question, is this method scientifically valid? And if so, show me the demonstration of that. All the things I mentioned not only need to be performed, but they need to be documented. The saying in the laboratory always is, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. So qualify these methods, document that qualification, not only the different test methods, but you need to qualify the laboratory that's performing the testing. That's an entirely different presentation, probably an entire different symposia, but it's important. Qualify the method, qualify the analyst, qualify the laboratory. These data are very, very important to the successful labeling and ultimately marketing and selling of these wonderful products. So with that, I'll stop, turn it back to you, Mark. Thank you for your attention, and I very much look forward to our discussion at the conclusion of the presentations.